our next speaker is kind of interesting. It turns out that apparently CPOs, CROs, CFOs, and CEOs, and pretty much anyone can fuck up pricing. And our next speaker has been kind enough to come here and teach us all about that. Now, he is the senior pricing advisor and CEO of Willingness to Pay, and a leading global expert, on B2B SaaS pricing. He works globally and has helped large companies and VCs and private equities around the world. So please welcome Ulrik Lehrskov-Schmidt.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Ulrik, and as was mentioned, I have done a lot of pricing for a lot of years. So I think that I can pretty confidently say that I have done more pricing mistakes than anyone in the room. So I thought about, instead of giving you sort of a sermon of how to do it correctly, I would rather give you a sermon of how not to do it. And the subtitle of the speak is No Teamwork Needed. And so the idea is that pricing actually happens all across the organization. So I wanted to give you an insight and sort of a role-by-role based guide of how to fuck up your pricing. So we're going to start with looking at the goal. So what is bad pricing? And I'm going to give you sort of a visual, a concept that is important, that needs to sort of like embed in your heads of how this works. And then we're just going to go through each of the 4 roles. All right? All right. So bad pricing is low revenue, high cost, high unpredictability. That's it. If you can solve for that, you're good. Your pricing will definitely suck. So, in order to do that, you need to understand that your product has an uneven value distribution across all of your customers, meaning that some customers get a lot of value out of it, and some customers get a little value out of it. So, if you have flat costs, like in traditional SaaS, that is sort of part of the equation. We'll get to AI a little bit later. But if you have the flat costs, then you can also have relatively flat pricing. And what you just want to make sure is that the pricing actually never really captures that outsized value, that one customer that gets 100 or 1,000x more value than most other customers. So what you want to avoid is this area here, which is where good pricing lives. That's sort of what your stay away zone is, right? So if you're in an AI company, it's great because you actually have 2 hockey sticks to work with, not just the revenue, but also the cost. So actually here you can actually create this asymmetry where you have all of the costs, but only the flat part of the revenue. So you actually want to avoid this kind of symmetry where revenue and costs align. All right, so far so good. So into the roles. So the CPO's guide to fucking up pricing. So first off, your job description as the CPO is to sort of build the architecture, the pricing, and the packaging that matches the way that the hockey stick looks for your product in the market. So 3 pieces of advice for you. First, you must stop talking about value. That's step 1. Make it technical. So features over value all the time. So sell the product, not the outcome, right? And then you have to reject the idea of an ICP. Like, our product can go to everyone, everywhere. So because often actually the value, the real value, lives inside the ICP, so just reject that idea totally. Then you should ask for more budget. So the problem with the product is that you don't have enough features, so you just try to suck resources out of the organization to build more features, so you can actually make it even more technical. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is that you must maximize the complexity. So you must have more SKUs, more add-ons, more modules, more platforms, more sort of integrations that you can sell separately. Once you've done that, you must make a complicated choice architecture. So if you buy A, you cannot buy B. But if you buy B, you also automatically buy C, but you can't buy A again. Stuff like that going in circles. All right, you get it. That's good. And then you must learn the sentence, we cannot leave money on the table. This is your go-to sentence when you want to add more complexity. Because if money is left on the table, you can always do something. You can add another module, you can create another discount, you can make something clever that takes that money off the table, but loads more complexity. So that's great. It's great for you. So the 3rd piece of advice is you must blame sales. This is critical. So you can say, well, the pricing is great. It's just those guys that don't get it because, they're in sales. Like, what can they do? And then you must, whenever they start to get it, you must change it. Constant changes all the time. And then again, ask for more budget. Like, hey, sales can't figure it out. It's because they need more features, right? So this sums it up. Like, make it technical, add complexity, and blame sales. You're set. Like, if you do that, regardless of what the other guys do, pricing is not going to work. Right. Okay. So if you're the CRO, your job is to take the pricing that is created by a product and execute it in the market. So if you have the unfortunate situation that the CPO is good and actually had good pricing, clear architecture, balanced complexity, all that, you can still fuck it up. Don't worry. First off, whatever structure is there, now make it bespoke. Every deal is different. So add complexity on each individual deal. That's how it is. Ask for new features, new add-ons, spin everything out, new SKUs all the time. So if they don't do it, you can do it. And then whenever you have complexity, log it in for many years. Long contracts, that's what you want to do. Second step, discount heavily. First, all deals. No deal is going out the door without a discount. And then, of course, whenever there's a hockey stick account, like a really, really large fish, that's when you pull out the 99% discounts. Just flatten the hockey stick. And then, of course, you can't make it disciplined. So, because if you start to have like a way of discounting, it can be scalable and operationalized, so you can't have that. And finally, because it's discounting, we have 4. You have to reward the sales rep that discounts the most, right? Goes without saying. And finally, you blame product. Right? Like in that sense, it's a team sport. So you say, hey, the pricing they created doesn't match how the market works. Great sentence for you. Also, blame growth on lack of features. Like, we could sell it if the product was just like more feature rich, so give us more of that. And then of course you can say that, in fact, maybe we should just own pricing. Like, because we're the only ones that truly know the customer, right? So we actually can't have it sitting in product. So, only bespoke deals, discount, blame product. Pretty easy. Now, if you're the CFO, you have a little bit more like a position outside of where most of the action happens, but you can definitely also fuck up pricing. So your job is to manage risk and do things like invoicing and billing. So, but you can still have some action. So, worst case, the other guys are doing a great job. They have a team, good pricing, good execution. I got you. You can still mess it up. Okay, step 1, kill the data. No data. First, provide unclear definitions of everything. If you have common language, it's not going to work. Second, complicate any collection process. Like not in time, manual, slow, multiple places. That's what works. Third, you have to use data in aggregate. So if you have half data, you have to say things like, well, the average deal size is, and then you have to ignore all the extremes. So just ignore that a hockey stick world exists. That's how it works. Okay, second step for you, you must become a champion of profitability. So this makes you look good, but you can fuck up pricing that way. So first, you must insist that if you have something that's really, really good and you're making a ton of money on a product, you have to find like individual cases that are not that good, and then you have to say, well, we have to solve for these individual cases by making it harder for everyone to buy. So you must ignore the forest and look at the trees. That's sort of how it works. Then you have to force product and everyone else to show ROI. So say, hey, if you have to build that feature, I want to see the money. So we have to tie a specific revenue stream to everything that you build. This actually makes you force complexity into the rest of the organization. That is great. Then you must cut all the hockey stick costs. So say, hey, we can't have any customers costing us too much money. We can't spend it on services. We can't spend it on support. We definitely can't spend it on infrastructure. Because if you do that, it's also really, really hard for those customers to get a lot of value. Right? So by cutting the cost, you cut the value. It's brilliant, and you look like the responsible adult. It's good. And finally, if they're really messing it up, you can always insert yourself. You can create a deal desk, for example, saying, hey, these deals are really important, so I need to be part of the negotiation. I need to make sure that we're profitable in these deals. And then you go in and basically do the CRO's job and create these bespoke deals. This is great. And finally, you can make billing a bottleneck, right? Be sure to not buy anything off the shelf. Build it yourself, like create a bespoke system. That's step number 1. And then you must allow all exceptions. Everything is in the scope in your billing system. It has to be good, right? And finally, what happens in the billing system stays in the billing system. Must be a black box, right? No audit trail, no transparency. Like, why would a customer have questions about an invoice, right? So, kill the data, become a champion of profitability, and make billing a bottleneck. Then you're good. Like, nobody can get it done. All right, the finale, the CEO. You're the boss, so your job is to make sure that everybody else does their job, right? So you have a problem if they actually do, right? So if you have good pricing with disciplined execution and like good profit management and billing and invoicing, you're kind of looking at that, who hired these idiots? Like, you can still make it work. It's a little bit more subtle, but we got you. So the first thing you must do is you must divide and conquer, right? So you must make everyone responsible for individual KPIs and not accountable for shared results. Like, so you must say, you own that and you own that. That's how it works. And then when they come to you and say, hey, we have to sort of figure out how to make this sort of trade-off, you just refuse to make a decision. You just like create a leadership vacuum, like push it back down the organization and say, well, I hired you to make these decisions, so you figure it out. And if they push you and say, hey, you have to make a decision, you say, well, we need more data. And it's a very important decision, so we can't rush this. So maybe the offsite in 6 weeks, that's a good time for us to make the decision. So you just push and push and push, right? That's great. So once you've created this divide and conquer and there's a leadership vacuum, now you apply pressure. This is great. So you must make sure that all short-term goals are hit. Quarterly goals, strategic goals, anything, all the product roadmap, everything has to go out on time. And then when that is on, you need to start up a number of strategic projects. This is a great way for you to take the best people of this organization and pull them out of their work streams and also create some blurred like reporting lines. This is good. And then you must add some urgency, right? You must say, hey, this pricing needs to be done by the big event or in 2 weeks so that you have like the perfect environment for making bad decisions. This is good. And finally, this is like pressure 2.0, you find someone to blame, right? So you start to blame the C-levels individually, preferably actually in front of them. It's like Mike, that's not very good, like in front of Sarah, like that kind of thing. And also if you do it in front of the board, like, yeah, Mike is trying his best, but we're working on it, right, Mike? Like you do that kind of thing. And also like this sort of sets the stage for when Mike gets thrown under the bus. That's good, right? And of course, finally, you can hire a consultant. Like we're here to help. So that's how it works. So divide and conquer, apply pressure, and find someone to blame. That's a zero guide. And of course, the underlying point here is that pricing doesn't live anywhere in the organization. It's a chain, which has like a weakest link kind of mechanism. So usually it starts somewhere where something valuable gets created in product, and there are some thoughts about how that works in a market with customers and create outcomes. And then it sort of delicately gets handed off into sales. They please go and make some revenue. And then sales tries to figure it out. And maybe it's full of holes and the theory that was created in product doesn't really like fully apply to reality, but you make the best of it. And then there are some nuance that the CFO has to sort of step in like an engineer, like reviewing the construction of a house and say, hey, this is stable, this is good, or maybe change this or carry this beam, stuff like that. And the idea is that everybody can mess it up. Everything can work perfectly, and if someone sort of does something inadvertently to not do well, everything can fail. And it can be really hard to really pinpoint what it is that actually goes wrong in pricing, which is why you actually often have the leader, the CEO, to sort of step in and say, let's think about this as a team and sort of try to figure it out and see what's going wrong and try to solve not for the individual small problem, but for the big problem of how we function as a business. And that's essentially why pricing is hard. It's because it's sort of a complicated product with a lot of upstream and downstream and moving parts. That's how it works. So, I hope I've given you a lot of inspiration. And of course, if you invert this, you might do good, no guarantees, but that's sort of the idea. All right. Thank you very much.
That was great. Thank you so much. Now, how good would you say that we are at this art of fucking up pricing?
Of the fucking up part, I think in the beginning when you're starting out as a company, you should just allow yourself to fuck up. Just make all the mistakes. Try like 1 million models. And then it's like the fuck ups become more expensive the more you grow, which is sort of is one of the hard things about growing and becoming sort of a mature company is that, oh, you have more things to lose, right? So the idea is not to not fuck up, is to sort of fuck up and learn and then actually improve.
And who would you say needs this guide the most, or at least the insights from this guide the most?
I think everybody here knows how much they need it. Like they can sort of look at their own business and say, yeah, we kind of need that. Or saying, hey, we might need that in the future. So I think right now, a lot of you guys need it because of AI. And there's a lot of pricing change happening. And that means that we are very prone to making mistakes because we have to make decisions, right? So I think for everyone that has to make these kinds of big changes, they need it the most.
I think it was really telling, and it was a great way to show this in a it was sort of tickling your senses in that way. So what would be the one insight that you hope everyone takes away from this presentation?
We all fuck up. Just move forward.
Good. Thank you so much, Ulrik.
Thanks so much. All right, cheers, guys.